My beloved brothers and sisters, when you think about what it truly means to live like a king, your mind might immediately picture golden crowns, vast lands, and endless wealth. But in reality, kingship is not about what sits in your hand. It is about what rests in your heart. The very first sign that you are already living like a king is when gratitude outweighs greed. Gratitude is the crown of a believer, and it makes the poorest man richer than the one who owns the treasures of the earth but is never satisfied. Every single one of us has been blessed with countless gifts that we often overlook. The breath you just took, the heart that continues to beat without your command, the roof above your head, the meal you ate yesterday, even the ability to hear these words. These are treasures that no amount of money can truly buy. A king is not made by what he collects, but by his awareness of what he already has. When gratitude fills your heart, you no longer live in constant hunger for more. You walk with dignity because you know you are already living in abundance. Greed, on the other hand, is like a bottomless pit. No matter how much you pour into it, it never fills. It robs people of peace, steals their joy, and blinds them from the blessings right in front of their eyes. How many people spend their lives chasing status, money, and recognition, yet they die restless and unsatisfied? Meanwhile, the one who sits in a small home with a simple plate of food and a grateful heart sleeps peacefully as if he were lying in a royal palace. Think about it for a moment. If you woke up today with only what you thanked Allah for yesterday, how much would you still have? That question alone teaches us that gratitude is not just about saying a thank you with the tongue. It is about living it with the heart. The grateful person gives thanks in action by using their health to do good, their time to benefit others, and their wealth to share rather than hoard. Gratitude transforms what we have into enough, and enough into more than enough. So if you find yourself content with your blessings, if you can look at your life and say, I am thankful, then realize you're already wearing the crown of kingship. Peace of mind is one of the most precious treasures a human being can ever possess. People often confuse wealth with luxury items, with properties, businesses, and popularity. But if those things do not bring inner calm, then they are merely heavy burdens disguised as blessings. To live like a king is not to have endless servants or countless rooms in a palace. It is to have a heart that rests in serenity, free from the constant storms of worry and comparison. When your mind is at ease, when you can sit in silence without being tormented by regrets of the past or anxieties about the future, you are wealthier than those who own millions yet cannot close their eyes at night without being haunted. Peace of mind is not sold in markets, and no one can deposit it into your bank account. It comes from trust, from detaching your heart from unnecessary comparisons, and from knowing that what Allah has decreed for you will never miss you, and what has missed you was never meant for you. Imagine two people, one with a mansion, fleets of cars, and piles of wealth, yet inside he is restless, jealous of others, fearful of losing what he has. The other person sits in a modest home, eats simple food, and wears ordinary clothes, but his heart beats with contentment. Ask yourself, who is truly the king? The one who owns the world but cannot sleep, or the one who owns little yet sleeps in peace? Our modern world tries to convince us that peace comes from adding more followers, more likes, more possessions, more recognition. But the truth is that peace often comes from subtracting. Subtract the need to constantly compete. Subtract the bitterness of comparing your journey with someone else's. Subtract the weight of holding grudges, and suddenly your heart feels lighter, calmer, freer. That lightness is royal living. Peace of mind also gives you strength in difficult times. Life will never be free of tests, but when your heart is steady, you can walk through storms with the dignity of a king. Trials will come, losses will hurt, disappointments will sting, but nothing can steal your inner kingdom if you have built it on trust and faith. That is why a calm heart is more valuable than gold. It allows you to live fully in every moment without being chained to fear of the unknown. So if you can sit with yourself without feeling broken, if you can wake up each morning without envy burning in your chest, if you can sleep at night knowing that tomorrow is in Allah's hands, then recognize that you are already living like a king. There is a kind of kingship that no crown, no army, and no throne can give you, and that is the dignity of living by strong faith and values. When you hold on to principles that guide your actions and when your trust is anchored in Allah, you walk with a strength that even rulers of nations envy. True kings are not defined by how much land they rule, but by how much they master themselves. They do not bow to the pressures of society, nor do they sell their integrity for temporary gain. Their wealth is not in gold, but in the unshakable certainty that Allah is their sustainer, their protector, and their provider. When you live with faith, your values become your shield. You do not need to run after every new trend, every fleeting desire, or every empty promise. You already know who you are and what you stand for. This gives you a type of stability that money cannot buy. Faith allows you to stand tall in a world that constantly tries to bend you, because you know that your worth does not come from people's approval, but from your Creator's pleasure. That is true royalty, the ability to walk in a world full of temptations and yet keep your heart pure, your intentions sincere, and your actions noble. People without faith often feel lost, always chasing after something to give them meaning. They may achieve everything outwardly but still feel empty inside, because values give purpose and faith gives direction. A king without principles is a puppet of his own desires, but a person with strong values is free even if he owns nothing. When you know that your honesty, your kindness, your patience, and your trust in Allah are non-negotiable, you are already living in a realm of richness that money cannot touch. Faith also gives you courage. It gives you the power to say no when the world pressures you to say yes. It gives you the ability to sacrifice short-term pleasure for long-term peace. It reminds you that real honor is not in being feared or followed, but in being true to your Creator. This inner strength is a crown that shines brighter than jewels. So if you live your life guided by faith, if you hold on to values even when it is difficult, and if your trust in Allah allows you to walk with dignity, then know this: you are already living like a king. There is something profoundly beautiful about finding joy in the simple things of life. We live in a world where people measure greatness by numbers, by the size of the house, the brand of clothes, or the luxury of the car. Yet the reality is that kingship is not about the scale of what you own, but the scale of your contentment. The ability to smile with little, to feel peace while eating a simple meal, to laugh in a small home with your family, or to sit quietly with your own thoughts and feel at ease. This is a treasure far greater than palaces and crown. Simplicity carries a dignity that extravagance can never provide. When you do not need the world to validate your happiness, you free yourself from the chains of endless desire. The one who can enjoy a cup of water as if it were the finest drink, or a plate of bread as if it were a banquet, is richer than the one who constantly upgrades his life yet never feels satisfied. Simplicity teaches us that happiness is not in having more, but in wanting less. When you live simply, you also remove unnecessary noise from your life. You do not have to worry about keeping up appearances, impressing others, or carrying the heavy burden of greed. Your life becomes lighter, calmer, and more authentic. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ himself lived with such simplicity that even kings envied his peace. He could sit on the ground, eat with the poor, wear plain clothes, and still command a respect and dignity that no throne on earth could ever match. Simplicity also teaches us resilience. When you train your heart to find joy in the little things, you are not shattered when the big things are taken away. A man who has built his happiness on wealth will collapse when wealth is lost. But a man who has built his happiness on gratitude and simplicity will still smile even in hard times. That is kingship of the highest order, because no loss can take away the treasure of a content heart. So if you can wake up and thank Allah for a simple meal, if you can smile at the little things that make your day brighter, if you can carry joy in moments that others overlook, then remember this: you are already living like a king. A true king is not remembered for the gold he stacked or the throne he sat upon, but for the way he touched the hearts of those around him. Respect and love from people is not something you can buy, and it is not something you can force. It is earned through the sincerity of your character, the kindness of your actions, and the consistency of your integrity. You may not have riches to distribute, you may not hold power to command, but if the people who know you speak of you with love, if they feel safe around you, if they smile when your name is mentioned, then you are already living with a crown upon your head. Think for a moment about how people remember those who came before us. The most powerful emperors in history are often forgotten, their names barely surviving in books. But those who showed compassion, those who gave hope, those who cared for others with sincerity are remembered with admiration for generations. Why? Because wealth fades, palaces crumble, but the impression you leave on a human heart lasts forever. A king's greatest throne is not made of gold. It is the place he earns in the hearts of others. The irony is that those who chase respect often fail to earn it, because true respect cannot be demanded. It grows when you live humbly, when you listen to others, when you uplift those who feel forgotten, those who feel forgotten. A king who rules with fear may control people temporarily, but he will never win their love. A person who leads with compassion, however, will find that even in his absence, people remember him with affection and make duo for him. That is a richness money can never purchase. When you live with sincerity, people recognize it. They may not say it out loud, but they feel it. A single act of kindness, a moment of patience, a word of encouragement. These are the gifts that build love and respect over time. And when people's hearts are with you, you are never poor, even if your hands are empty. So if you find that people speak kindly of you, if they remember you for your goodness rather than your possessions, if their love and respect are given freely without you asking, then know with certainty you are already living like a king. There is a kind of power that no army, no wealth, and no crown can give, and that is mastery over the self. Control over desires is the ultimate kingdom, because without it, even the most powerful ruler is a slave to his own impulses. Many people spend their lives chasing what they want, trying to satisfy cravings that never end, and allowing emotions to dictate their decisions. They may appear successful on the outside, but inside, they are constantly battling restlessness, envy, and temptation. True kingship begins when you learn to govern your own heart, to say no to what is harmful, and to remain patient when the world pushes you toward haste. Self-mastery is not about denying yourself all pleasure or living in hardship. It is about understanding your own needs and aligning them with what is right. A king who rules wisely knows when to speak and when to remain silent, when to act and when to wait. Similarly, when you have control over your desires, you choose your actions thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. You no longer chase every passing fad, every fleeting emotion, or every empty craving. Instead, you focus on what truly matters: faith, family, values, and inner peace. Desires are like wild horses. They can carry you anywhere if left unchecked. They can lead you to regret, guilt, and dissatisfaction. But when you harness them, when you channel them toward meaningful goals, you find freedom unlike any other. A person who can master anger instead of giving in, who can control envy instead of letting it consume the heart, who can resist unnecessary greed instead of always wanting more, is a ruler over his own world. That kind of mastery is true power because it cannot be taken away by storms, losses, or criticism. Self-control also brings contentment. When you are not constantly driven by fleeting wants, your heart finds rest. You appreciate what you have, act with purpose, and resist the urge to compare yourself to others. The inner peace that comes from self-mastery is a kingdom no one can invade, and it is a wealth that multiplies over time. So if you find that your desires no longer control you, if patience guides your choices, and if wisdom governs your actions, then understand this: you are already living like a king.